So our final session of the morning, it's a fireside chat. I'm pleased to introduce your moderator. Andy Mcafee is the co-director of the MIT Initiative on the Digital Economy. He's a principal research scientist at MIT Sloan School of Management. And he has recently authored a book called More from Less, the surprising story of how we learn to prosper using fewer resources and what happens next. Our esteemed guest is Ardene Williams. Ardine is Amazon's Vice President of Workforce Development. Her team delivers programs that include Career Choice, which has helped thousands of Amazonians retrain for careers in high-demand fields. Please help me welcome them to the stage.
Thank you.
We're not big on preamble here, so we're just going to dive right in. Ardine, you just mentioned a really interesting word to me backstage. You said Amazon has a libertarian gene in a lot of ways. Why the hell are you paying for entry-level people to go get trained to take jobs outside Amazon then?
Because it makes good business sense.
You got to walk us through that.
Okay. So I'll give you my favorite example because it's easy, and I like easy. Dallas-Fort Worth, aerospace hub. 1 in 6 jobs is in aerospace. Lockheed Martin, Bell, Sikorsky, you guys can Google it. They have a pipeline issue with advanced manufacturing technicians. Now, it's a...
How is that your problem?
It isn't my problem per se, but let's give you some basics. The minimum wage in Texas is still $7.25, right? We pay our associates $15 minimum and full benefits from day one around the country. And then those that stay with us a year have a training benefit. So one of the things that we do is look and say, what are the jobs outside of the company that offer a career path that pay more than we do? And we do that. The reason we do that is because as one of the largest employers in the US, we think we have a role to play in creating great jobs. And those comprise 3 things: pay, benefits from day one, and then the third piece is that career opportunity. And in a fulfillment center environment, because it's a very broad base, there aren't necessarily a lot of roles that are available. Right? So now I look outside and say, okay, back to Dallas-Fort Worth. I'm, Sikorsky, I can't find enough advanced manufacturing technicians. It's typically a certificate program in a community college. It can take 9 months to get, costs about $5 grand, and it's full time. So now I have to quit my job, right, where I'm making $15 an hour and getting benefits to go to train for something that'll bump me up the ladder.
I gotta find the $5 grand.
Right.
Okay.
And figure out how to squirrel away enough to keep the family running, right?
Yep.
So we work with the provider to bring the training into our fulfillment center. My job, I have an adult learner, so I want to remove friction from the system, bring the training in-house, offer it at shift-friendly times, and then ensure that once they've completed the training, connect them with employers. Now, why does that make sense? It's a great...
Who covers the $5 grand?
We do.
You do.
Yeah, and it's a first dollar program, so you don't have to pay it and then me reimburse it. I just write the check.
Okay.
And I do that because now I have an attraction mechanism, right? I have the equivalent of a GI Bill, number one. Number two, you're eligible after a year, so I've got a retention mechanism.
Okay.
And then the third piece is now I take somebody from $15 an hour and I move them up the wage scale to say 17 to 19 for that job. And they're in a role now that has this career path to it. So I've taken somebody from 15 to, I'll be conservative, 17. And then from everybody I take from 15 to 17, I open up a slot where I can take somebody from 7.25 to 15. Now, come back to my raison d'etre. I'm a retailer. And now what I've done is I have increased the availability of talent in the local community. So those companies are filling their jobs. More startups that are affiliated with that industry are coming because the talent is there and they're close with their providers. I'm raising the level of income, and that means more discretionary income. And as a retailer, that makes good business sense.
When you go talk about this with other big companies that employ a lot of entry-level people, does the message sink in? Do they look at you like you're nuts?
I think there are other companies that are doing good work on the upskilling front. I think that, you look at McDonald's, Starbucks, Walmart has some programs. But many of those are focused on training folks for either internal jobs or a fixed set of degrees. So I think there are other employers who get it.
That's kind of a diplomatic answer. And you are not known for diplomacy.
Me?
But why isn't this more common? Can you opine on why this is not more common among the big entry-level employers?
I think it's tough to scale.
Okay.
And part of the challenge for me, so we have a team of 38 folks that run this globally for a company of 750,000 people. Wow. And so figuring out in this how you identify the jobs in the community, right? What are the open jobs? Who are the right providers? And then kind of making all that work, it takes scale, and it's hard to do.
It's bespoke in each community. It's very different.
Because it doesn't make sense to train people in Texas for a job that's in Colorado. Yep. I mean, Janesville's a great example of that, right? There were people who were trained there for jobs outside the community, and fundamentally, people choose to live where they live because they have support networks, they have family, they don't want to leave.
Do you not find it weird that labor mobility in America is going down and is really at a half-century low as far as we can tell?
It's weird to me personally because I've been a tumbleweed my whole career. But I understand it because I have 3 children and there's 23 months and 2 minutes between my 3 kids. And
what?
So, yeah, I have twins.
Oh. Okay.
And so,
I was doing the math internally.
Yeah, I know,
and
I was watching it. I was like,
what?
And having that support network, for that period of time when, even though my mom and dad still worked, having that period of time where they were close to us physically was just a huge support piece. I get it. Sorry, did I take you off track there?
Yeah, I'm still doing the math. We've been hearing a couple times this morning already that the job apocalypse is upon us, right? And if you listen to people like my colleague Kai-Fu Lee, he said, look, I'll take a bet that in 15 years, X% of jobs are going to be gravely confronted by automation. Does that sound right to you?
I think most jobs are gravely confronted by automation on a daily basis. I think the changes are incremental. I think if you listen to the story of the robot apocalypse, the time frame kind of just keeps slipping out a little bit further and further. It's not tomorrow, it's the day after tomorrow. Because fundamentally, it's about tasks and job content changing. There are some examples where jobs disappear wholesale, but they're few and far between.
Why are you guys as a company still hiring at such a furious clip? You like automation, you like technology. I don't think you would keep people in a job where you don't feel like they're useful and productive. Why do you need so many more people every year in this era of crazy powerful technology?
I think that technology is in most cases is complementary. It doesn't replace jobs wholesale. I think what we're seeing, and I'll give you a white collar example, because I think there's lots of examples on the manufacturing floor and that of automation that are easy to see. In the white collar space, we talked a little bit about, let's talk about something simple like robotics process automation, where you're replacing kind of the gluing together of knowledge across a function, like getting ready for payroll. Those are the kinds of things that I think are...
And that used to be or still is in many cases, a very clerk-heavy job.
Right. Did you punch in all week long? Did you punch out for lunch? Did you work more than your 10-hour shift? Or I'm going in and I'm looking at the badge entry data. I'm going in and looking at the work floor entry piece, and checking that. When I automate that, I clean up the process, I work with the folks who are doing the work to get it clean, and then I put in robotic process automation to lift that off of my entry-level HR folks so they can go spend more time with managers. Okay. Their job content is changing. And for them, then we say, okay, how do I add that skill so that they can spend more time with managers to coach on manager effectiveness? But that entry-level job is foundationally changing. So I'm adding automation, right? But I still need workers, but they're doing, in many cases, a slightly different job.
And if I'm hearing you right, you think they're doing a kind of more interesting, better job in that case.
That's an opinion on my part. That it's more interesting. For somebody, they
might love checking those badge logs all week long.
I mean, working with managers can be hard.
But it's kind of the job of HR, isn't it?
Yeah.
One thing I've heard you say also is that let's say that we do a whole lot of robotic process automation across a lot of those white-collar entry jobs, which seems at least plausible.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's happening.
It's happening. You seem to be worried that we might be losing a good on-ramp or a good training ground for future mid-level, high-level white-collar professionals. Is that accurate?
I think what you do is you kind of cut off that bottom rung of the ladder.
Yeah.
If you think about the ladder piece, and let's move from talk about something that's pretty commonplace. Recruiting coordinators. They basically schedule interviews, right? And
Got it.
So, you know, I want to talk to you about a job, and somebody calls you up and schedules it.
And in the world of yesterday and today, we need a lot of those people because you hire a lot of.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And so you say, okay, that's something that's pretty straightforward to replace with technology in most cases, right? We can have a machine-generated text. You can pick a time, but now, you know, your flight's delayed. You didn't land. How do you reschedule? So at some point, a human needs to come in. The challenge with those jobs is there's not a significant barrier to entry.
Yep.
And they're a great training ground because you learn customer service skills, you learn about the business because you're talking to candidates about jobs, you learn about the internal automation, you may do a little project management for a recruiting event, and all of a sudden now you're a project coordinator, so you go off to a different job.
Even though what I would think of as the content of the job is not super taxing on your brain, scheduling, right. You're saying that you pick up a lot around that task that's really valuable for a white-collar professional.
And then you move in that lattice work. You could move up and become a recruiter, or you might move over and be a project coordinator, and then learn, go and get your project management professional certification, become a project manager. And so there's this, or maybe you go to work as an executive assistant. So there's kind of interesting. It's a great portal job, kind of that entry piece. So if you automate that away, then the question for me is, what is that portal job? Because those are the things I think about. What are those entry points where I can get someone in, get them good skills, get them exposed to the enterprise in a variety of different areas where now there are a couple of stepping stones that they could take in different career directions.
And are you optimistic? Are you seeing portal job 2.0 out there, or is that not clear yet?
It's not, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yep.
I've been looking for one on Amazon, and I just got that darn crazy 8-ball. And I'm generally an optimistic person. I think the challenge is because it's easy to look back and mourn what we've lost. It's always tough to envision what we don't know.
Yeah. And on that point, I want to push you on this job apocalypse thing that we keep hearing about. Can you look into your non-existent crystal ball and tell us from your viewpoint, both as a big employer and as a company that's putting a lot of automation out there in the world of different kinds, how should we think about peak jobs, peak labor? We're just not going to need as many people somewhere down the road. Is that not a thing that keeps you up at night?
I think that we heard earlier from Liberty Mutual, the complexion changes, right? The workforce makeup changes. What I would tell you in our fulfillment centers that are robotics centers, that they run at a higher, they're more efficient and have higher capacity, and so the employee staffing levels in those tend to be higher.
Higher.
Yeah, which is kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah. Do you see anywhere a plateau in the number of people that you're going to need to run one of those extremely sophisticated facilities?
I don't know enough about that part of the business, honestly, to answer that question. What I would tell you in the for example, recruiting or human resources, I think that you could see the ratios start to decrease of people doing more clerical work as that gets automated. But you're still going to need that human piece, and we talked about soft skills around manager coaching, around organizational design. Those pieces that are tough to automate. You may be able to automate, a questionnaire or parts of it that make the data easier to access. And so maybe your ratios drop. Maybe you don't have to hire 1 to 300. You can get away with 1 to 350.
Okay. I've toured around one of your, I think, more advanced fulfillment centers, and it's this astonishing operation, right? Where people are kind of around the periphery of that whole inner workings of conveyor belts and, former Kiva robots and things. The little R2-D2s, the Ottomans that roll around. Then there are people around the edge whose job it is to do the dexterously difficult thing of take 2 of these out, ship it down, close the box up, that kind of stuff. It kind of feels to me like once we automate that dexterity sensing combination that we humans have, your facilities could be a great deal more automated. Or is that naive?
I suspect that they could. I think that dexterity problem is really a huge engineering challenge, and I think there are probably folks in the audience that are either thinking about it or working on it, just in terms of the ability to visually perceive the item, figure out, discern what it is, understand how you can grasp it. It's a big challenge.
As you talk, it reminds me a little bit of fully automated vehicles, in that it seems like they might be just around the corner, but it's actually fiendishly difficult to do in a reliable way.
Yeah, and the complexity of the system, right? If you think about autonomous vehicles on the road, you have all the non-autonomous vehicles that you have no idea how they're going to interact.
Yep.
I have that problem anyway when I drive, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not me, it's people around me.
Talk about some of the other programs that you do at Amazon for workforce development that you think are coolest or that you're proudest of.
So one is, again, the Career Choice program. In our top 3 fields there are...
and Career Choice is helping your...
Career Choice is the only tuition assistance program that we have in the company.
The only one you do.
Yeah.
And you do it for your entry-level blue-collar people.
Only for hourly workers.
Huh. As somebody who sits at a university that does a fair amount of interface with the corporate world where it is supported by tuition assistance, you can understand why I'm a little unhappy about that.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a wave of sympathy off you. Why don't you do more broad tuition assistance than that?
Because the philosophy is, if you've got a degree, you've got a degree, and you know how to learn. And we're no longer...
That's kind of a big assumption, isn't it?
I think I'm going to say it's a fair assumption.
Okay.
I mean, hey, I was educated pre-internet, and I think I did okay. I remember punch cards.
Yep.
But I think that once you have that foundation, then it's a matter of what is the experience you have, and then what's the skill or capability that you add to it. So what we have, for example, is the Machine Learning University. We have about 400 folks internally who are expert, not instructors, but they're working in it, who work in 6-week units to upskill other computer science professionals and provide graduate level, state-of-the-art training on machine learning and AI. And so that's really helped, and that content changes obviously on a really regular basis.
But you'd rather have your people teaching your people inside the 4 walls of the company, even than saying, go take an online course, go take a Udacity or a Coursera course.
Or go engage in a community like this, or they're on boards, or they're doing research work.
What else?
So Amazon to Tech, it works on helping associates get CompTIA certificates. So this is outside of the Career Choice program. Yep. So they're learning desk-side IT services or networking. And so they're moving from non-tech to tech.
Got it.
We have the Amazon Technical Academy that takes employees who have a non-technical degree and provides them over the course of about a year the equivalent of a four-year computer science degree, so then they're able to move into an entry-level software engineering job.
And are these popular inside the company?
Yeah.
You've got this pretty broad dashboard of the skills that you need as a very big employer and the skills that are out there in the world. Would you kind of grade the American educational system on its ability to give Amazon the skills that it needs?
But the U.S. education system is broad and diverse, and there are places that are doing incredibly well, and I think there are other places that are challenged. I think that the thing that I worry the most about, if I think about the pipeline, is so HQ2. And my charter is to make sure that we can hire the 25,000 people we need over the next 10 years.
25,000.
So that means that I'm thinking about impacting kids who are in grade school. And if I look in schools, and I'm working on visiting the 95 counties in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the key thing that you need is someone in those schools who's certified to teach computer science, right? And then so I need somebody like that in every school. And then in every single classroom in the country, I need somebody that's digitally literate. And what that means is, how are you integrating digital literacy into the curriculum top to bottom? because that's how we're going to create the workforce that's curious about technology, that's interested in pursuing a career that integrates technology, because it isn't STEM or anymore. I mean, we talk about soft skills, but the reality is you're going to have soft skills and you're going to have to figure out how to use technology and how to interface with technology. So I'm a firm believer it's STEM and. Those soft skills are critical, but we are moving into a world that is increasingly technical. And you're not going to be able to opt out and say, yeah, I don't want to study math because I'm going to do those soft skills because somebody told me that computers can't do it.
I was looking for a grade, and I got not a grade.
The schools, the schools that are doing it well are probably, getting an A, and the ones that are doing it poorly are getting an F, Professor.
That's an answer and a tautology at the same time. How many in each category are there?
I think that the ones that are where we're seeing a lot of innovation, I think are in. I think some community colleges are incredibly innovative because they've got the luxury, right? They're not tied to publishing to a tenured track,
got
right?
it.
So they can innovate, and they've got the not for credit side and the for credit side, and those tend to knowledge and learning moves back and forth. I think
and you've found community colleges that are plugged into their communities and the skills that they need.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I'd say is things like the Greater Washington Partnership in the District, Maryland, Virginia, has a council of schools and of businesses that come together and hash out the signaling. They've just come up, the CoLab, which Wes Bush leads, just came out with a digital certificate, or data analytics certificate. Mm-hmm. And it was a bunch of partner companies, and we hashed out the knowledge, skills, and abilities, and it took some time, right? Because I wanted tomato and you wanted tomato, but we got to it and said, this is what it is. And the school said, okay, I'm gonna do it as a certificate, I'm gonna do it as a minor, and then we agreed as a cohort of employers to interview those folks who have that certificate. So even if they don't have the underlying traditional four-year degree that you'd hire somebody for in that field, we're gonna use that digital certificate. So that signaling and that collaboration, I'd give something like that a high grade.
Are you caring less and less over time about the formal credentials that the traditional educational institutions give to their students?
I don't know that I'm caring less and less yet. I think we've talked a lot about skills. There's a lot of really interesting startup work happening around whether it's skills certification or blockchain or banking, whatever the methodology is. The challenge with saying, hey, I don't care about degrees anymore, is what's the third-party seal of approval that says that I know that if you have this data analytics capability, it's the same as this data analytics capability. It's the boot camp conundrum, right? Some do a great job, and others, we've talked about the cold to code debacle.
Okay, got it. Can we open this up and see what questions are coming from? Are you
Yes.
human, Slido?
Yes, this is human-machine collaboration at its best.
I think that's called the interface.
Because we're short on time, I think we're just going to stick to the Slido questions because we have a ton of good ones. So I just want to give you a couple of these. The first is, what, if any, national policy programs would be helpful to further these upskilling programs that we're talking about?
National policy programs. I think that there's already a lot of national capability. I think I'm a big fan of the Department of Labor registered apprenticeship programs. They can be applied. We have 9. They're in technical fields like software development engineer and solutions architect. And so when you take that framework, you're able to create a program where you're providing traditional classroom training, supervised practical on the job experience in a very tiered expectation with a wage scale. So that exists today.
And you'd be comfortable taking somebody with that certification from outside? Okay, got it.
Absolutely, because the DOL has said, hey, you know what, this is comparable to everybody else. And then when it takes time to hash through it with the DOL, it's because they're comparing what you think you want to do to what everybody else is doing.
Got it. Okay.
Awesome. What kind of main recruitment and skills assessment issues will be solved, or you wish will be solved, with technology in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think there's a lot of work now already with automated assessments, and we talked a little earlier around ensuring that you're doing good design, that you're training your models, that you're validating for adverse impact, and that you are consistently reviewing those assessments to assure that what you're getting is consistent with what you need. And so I think what they do is they increase the fidelity of your recruiting pipeline.
So how can the need for high-skilled jobs be used as a conduit to solve inequality and address historical racial disparities and other inequities?
Sorry, I didn't hear you really well. I
How
just
can
read
the
it.
need
So much for that brilliant human-machine
Yeah.
collaboration.
No, it's my fault. I've been around
No.
generators too long.
So how can the need for high-skilled jobs
High-skilled.
be used as a conduit to solve some of the inequality and historical racial disparities or inequities?
I think it's about, I think, again, equality of access is huge. And there's also, I talked about, about K to 12, having quality education in our primary and secondary schools is huge. And then the second piece is thinking about how you create that exposure so that students pursue STEM. And we have a program called Amazon Future Engineer that's targeted specifically to address that pipeline problem. 8% of STEM students study computer science, and just a sliver of those are women and people of color. The only reason I went into computer science is because I stumbled into, when I was learning to play chess, this other group that was in the same room that was playing with a computer. I said, that looks like a lot more fun than chess. Right? And so by the time I got to college, and I couldn't get
That is a low bar, man.
It was. But I ended up taking a course in BASIC that was available instead of another one because I said, oh, I know what that is. I can do it. If I hadn't been exposed to that, I probably would have just X'd it off the list. And so I think creating that exposure so that it is accessible and it's not intimidating is a huge piece of it.
Could I broaden that question out?
Yeah.
How do you and Amazon think about diversity and about your responsibilities in that area?
I think that, I know that we're focused on the long term, and I know that we can do better. I'll start with that.
Okay.
The piece for me that's important is we can continue to kind of scrap over hiring from the same small pool, or we can take a step back and work backward from the problem, which is the diversity of the pipeline. And so by going back, K to 12 and then to college and saying, what can we do to expose more women and underserved communities to technology? What can we do to bring cloud computing to public schools and historically black institutions and the Latinx schools, for example? And I think by doing those pieces and increasing that pipeline, we're really not only helping ourselves, but we help the broader tech community.
And kind of a similar piece, in the same kind of vein, how is Amazon thinking about the jobs of 5 years from now or 10 years from now?
And what is your horizon?
10 years to me is a lifetime. I think it's tough. What I can tell you is the further out you get, the more generic it becomes. I think that there are a couple of things that remain constant. Technology will continue to advance quickly and will be more pervasive. The ability to, we are awash in data, and the ability to glean actionable insight from data and then cogently communicate it are huge skills. And then how do you assemble a team of people with diverse skills and help them collaborate together to solve that problem? I think those are the jobs of the future.
That's a great tripod. Which of those legs is weakest right now? Is it the insights from data, the communicating it, or the building a team to go after it? Where do you need them? Where do you would want to see the skills improve?
Before I worked at Amazon, I probably would have said that it's the first one, the data, and I'm still kind of on the fence, but the communicate cogently. We are a culture of expository writing. I think you know that.
Absolutely.
And I used to take great pride in my ability to present with PowerPoint. And what I learned, I get humbled every single day when I go to work at Amazon by how incredibly smart the people are I work with. And having to put pen to paper and actually write that 6-pager makes you realize that some of the stuff that I said before on PowerPoint, you could drive a truck through. It forces a discipline of thinking that just doesn't exist with PowerPoint. So I would say it's kind of a tie for me between that communicate, coach. How do you take that data, see the insight, and then what the heck are you going to do with it? And then craft the problem statement, and then tell me what your action plan is and back it up with data, which is academia, right?
Well, allegedly.
I think that was self-inflicted.
This is something we hear lore about the company from the outside. Is it true that you've basically taken PowerPoint out back and killed it inside Amazon?
Yeah, I think I've been at the company 5 years, and I've spoken to a PowerPoint presentation 6 times, and it's been in the last year in external presentations to institutions, and it was really odd. So disclosure, my daughter started at Amazon 3 months after I did. And she didn't tell me that she was interviewing until after she got the job. But so one of the things because we ramped together, was we'd had this sort of ability to look at the culture as an outsider. And she called it, I'm going to use air quotes, the hour of silent reading when you first go in. And she said, it's really awkward. So you go into a meeting and you hand out papers, and instead of the banter and everybody yapping and back and forth,
You sit around and read.
You sit there and it's quiet. And you look around and go, this is really awkward, right? And particularly if it's your paper, and then it's like, oh my God. You know,
Does it not seem weird to you anymore?
It doesn't. But what's weird is when somebody who's a new hire comes in and starts talking, right? I was like, what are you doing? It's silent prayer. Stop it. Yeah.
We have time for one more?
One more. So as the leading marketplace worldwide, what are your thoughts on cross-geographical and cross-industrial training programs?
You know, I'll give the cross-geographic. So career choice is global. And I'm going to come back to a point I made. It doesn't make sense for me to train people in Newark for a job in Seattle. So in Newark, phlebotomists are in short supply. They're in surplus in Seattle, and I'd be doing a disservice there. I still have to scale, which means that I know that for a lot of my tech roles that college algebra is foundational, and so I have to have that capability across the country. And so I look and say, what's that common denominator that I need so I can scale, but I have to tailor those programs to the in-demand jobs in the community, because that's what gets people up the wage ladder.
Inside Amazon, are you more geographically agnostic?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, where we can be.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
We pride ourselves at MIT on the drink from the fire hose. This was a drink from the fire hose. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So much.